Before we head down to the garden, I just wanted to show you the ground cherries that are growing on the deck. They're doing pretty good. They've kind of been up and down. The soil really settled in these buckets, and I didn't bring more up to fill them up after I planted them. And our watering has been a little erratic. At times, I think maybe even too much. Got them all slammed together over here because I was laying some tomatoes out last week. But as you can see, they are full of fruit. And I haven't seen any dropping yet, which I have a feeling they call them ground cherries because you know they are ripe when they hit the ground. Looks like those paper sacks are starting to lighten, which means they're turning ripe because the little tissue sacks that the ground cherries are in, they dry a bit before the ground cherries actually hit the ground. And that way you know. See over here, I think we've just had a bit too much water. I put them in the bags and they absorb the water, even though they're in soil rather than mix. The bags absorb the water better and keep the soil wetter. And, we've had some really hot weather. These are the ground cherries on the other side. And we have 10 ground cherry plants down in my cinder block bed, I guess is what I've called it. I started calling it asparagus bed, but I don't have any asparagus in it yet. Oh, there's one thing over here yet I need to show you, which is the craziest. I had said at one point that every single thing I planted this year, every seed I put in the dirt, actually grew. But the one thing that didn't was asparagus, right? So, looky here. This crazy thing, I brought it up from downstairs. A bunch of the asparagus seeds had actually grown after I gave up on it. And now look what's happening. These are funny little frilly, this is asparagus, I'm just sure. The Lord wasn't going to let me be a liar. He was going to make sure that everybody sees, so I'll give him a little more water today. And the soil is still, it looks terrible on top, but it still feels pretty good underneath. Anyway, craziness. All right, we're going to head for the garden. I can hear my dogs yakking down there. Excuse the dirtiness and the mess. I haven't cleaned up after the dogs in a while. I haven't mowed. Our current issue and our current fun is the fact that some silly bunny decided to make her home under our tank. And these little bunnies have been coming out and escaping. Coming out and escaping. And we put some chicken wire around there so they can... Annie, get out. Obviously, Annie thinks that she could sneak back in there, and she probably could. Anyhow, let's pull the water on before we go. It's a bear. Prying that thing open and keeping it up straight. That's enough, Punky. Come on, you guys, let's go. Hey, don't worry about the bunnies. Let's go. Oh, Annie says. Shh, girlfriend. Get out there. Looking for a yellow dog. Boom, there she goes. I've been debating. Pumpkin, get out of the compost. I've been debating whether to mow. It had gotten so dry. Well, I've got a lot of big weeds over here because we had panels over here that we just recently put up by the peppers. Because I didn't have the peppers trellised at first. And we had some big windstorms. And I actually lost a pepper plant and some branches off of others to the windstorms. All right. Yeah, I haven't shown you this bed for a while, have I? Check this out. All right. And you can see the difference in size between the ground cherry plants here and the ground cherry plants up on the deck, growing in just a little bit of dirt in a bucket. So there are 5 ground cherries on this end, and some of them have died back a little bit. There were multiple in each cluster. But these are tall, tall ground cherry plants. And they're full. They're full of fruit. I don't see any again on the ground. But the sunflowers that Bubba hates so desperately for some reason are doing all right. You know, I planted 5 rows and I think I got 5 plants out of 1 row. And that's okay. I like them. It made room for my ground cherries. So there we are on those ground cherries. Move my watering tubs up here. I fill them from the rain collection and the city water that we've had to be running. Primarily because we haven't had enough rain to keep the garden watered. Oh, that screeching Mimi across the road, I tell you what. It didn't irritate me quite as much until I was working outside every day. And I think they may even have a second shift going now, because the other night I was out here at 7:30 and our outside hopper, or whatever it is, was screaming. Anywho, yesterday I cleaned off the peppers that were big enough on these bell pepper plants. The first 2 rows, and these are the panels. We did trellis the peppers, like I said, because they were just they were suffering from the wind, and several of them had blown over. And anyhow, first 2 rows, bell peppers, recently picked. This is the unknown, absolutely jam-packed full of teeny weeny peppers, vertical, and I'm thinking maybe Tabasco pepper or something like that got mixed in with my seeds. I don't know. We'll pick them if they ripen, and we'll find out. Our habaneros, holy goodness, habaneros! Look at these things. You know, yeah, they grew, and these were from seeds that I collected last year. I didn't even know whether they were hybrid or not. And I don't know how well you can see it, but we have habaneros. The plants are just packed full of peppers. And, you know, these peppers right now, whoop, let me get into there, are already bigger. They haven't even started to turn orange. They're already bigger than anything we harvested last year when it was fully ripe. So I am extremely excited about that. These aren't tied to the trellis necessarily, but a lot of the pepper plants are. But yeah, these habaneros are looking excellent. And if you're curious, I'll make a video when I finally get around to it. What I do with habanero peppers is dehydrate them and grind them and make seasoning combinations. I combined them with pink Himalayan salt last year and made what I called hot pink, and it is excellent. If you like heat and you're a salt lover, oh my goodness. This one is a habanero. Not a habanero. This one is a jalapeno, and you can see that the plant is just packed full, and these little peppers now are turning bright yellow. I'll be picking these 3 here soon. They didn't get very big before they got yellow. I picked one last week, gave it to Bubba, and he ate it when it was really little, and he said it tasted very lemony and kind of jalapeno-y. So last week, when Blue was out here, we picked one that was about this size, thinking it was just going to taste like a citrus jalapeno. And Bubba broke it in half, and he handed part of it to Blue, and Blue barely took a teeny weeny bite off the edge. No seeds or anything. Oh yeah, we're getting some jalapeno that are just about market size. Well, we got our hands full of peppers today. We don't need to pick these yet. Anyway, he took an itty bitty bite. I took the other half of the pepper, popped it in my mouth, seeds and all, and we just about debilitated ourselves, I'm telling you, because wow, they were hot. See, now this one, they're just starting to turn yellow. Pretty sure this is one of those lemon spice jalapenos as well. These are regular jalapeno, and The plant is packed. Those that are up near the sun have seen the sunshine and not the shade are turning purple, which that's unique. I've never seen that happen before, but I guess the little peppers are sunburned. And like I say, these plants are just, I mean, I don't know how well you can see it. I have tied this one up, but loaded, loaded, loaded. The green beans, probably in the next day or two, I'll start picking again, because they did, praise the Lord, go through a second round of blooms, and I've had lots of pollinators, so I think I might get some more green beans. They have continued to drink. And yellow butterwax beans still look pretty decent. They do have blossoms. I'm hoping we're going to go through another round with them too. This row was, oh, I skipped part of my peppers, but I'll get back to them. This row was peas, and they ran through a full cycle. It was obvious they were not going to do it again. So these are the little peppers that I had on the deck in coffee cans, that they're an unknown hot pepper wild variety from Mexico, according to some family members. So we have no idea what they are, but we're going to grow them up and see what they put on, if anything. All right, back to this side. Over here are 3 poblano pepper plants and 2 jalapeno. And the poblanos yesterday, I have half a dozen, and I picked probably 75% of what's on them. They still have a lot of peppers per plant. And today I'm going to be processing poblanos. I'm going to be dicing them up and putting them in freezer bags for now. I'll pull them out of the freezer and throw them in a recipe. I'll pull them out of the freezer and can them with tomatoes to make my own homemade rotel of different heat levels. So those 3 and these 3 poblanos, and then some more jalapenos down there. These 3 are Serrano, and they were so packed full. They're still pretty full. You can see them. They look like Christmas tree lights to me. I picked 80% of what was on these 3 plants. And they're going to town again. They're still throwing them on. And I made Cowboy candy. Candied hot Serrano peppers. Bubba asked me this time to put them in pints instead of half pints. So that's what I did. And out of all these, we have 6 great big pints. I'll put a picture on, full of candied Serrano peppers. Alrighty, here are my lima beans, and you can see the pollinators are still buzzing around these lima beans. The leaves are starting to lighten up. The pods are filling up, and I haven't picked any yet. I don't know if you heard that bee go by. I heard him. We love our pollinators. Yeah, I haven't picked any yet. I've been looking, you know, all my educators are primarily on YouTube, and looking to see, you know, what it should look like when you pick it. This, you can kind of hold them up to the sun and see, they said, you know, 3 or 4 big beans is what you're probably going to expect per pod. And, you know, those beans haven't filled out the pod yet. But I've just been keeping an eye on them. They're really an interesting, you know, I'm sure by the time I pick everything that is on these just 5 buckets of plants, you know, I'm sure we won't have enough to put away. But there you can see. If it's focusing, I can't tell because I'm out in the bright sun. But the beans growing in the pods. Anyway, you know, we'll have enough for a meal to share. And we'll have the experience of growing lima beans like nobody I know has ever done before. All right. Probably won't grow them next year. But it's all a learning experience. We learn something new every time. This is only my second year of gardening, and I've learned so much already. You know, some things are a win, some things are a fail, and I don't care. Gardening's therapeutic, even if you don't eat what you grow, even if you just grow flowers or herbs. You know, gardening is therapeutic. I've learned to really love it. I spend, well over an hour at the minimum out here every day just to get my watering and harvesting done. And some days I'll be out here for 3 hours or more, depending on what I'm doing. These are the purple potted pole beans. And I'm so happy to see them full of blooms again, and to see my pollinators buzzing around. I don't know if you can see them, but I sure can, and I'm really happy they're here. These purple potted pole beans, I've been reaching on my tippy toes sometimes to harvest, and I can't tell you how exciting that is for a gardener. Not to be bending over. These I will grow. I will grow more of them than I did this year, because they put on a lot of food. And I've canned, between them and the butterwax and the green beans, I have canned a dozen quart of beans, which isn't a great big deal, but that's a dozen meals from something that I grew that I'm really happy about. Those are the purple Russian tomatoes. I have really picked. I still have some more to take in. I will not grow the purple Russian again. I have decided, they were a free packet of seeds I got, so, it was a win-win anyway. Anything I get from them is free food. But, they ripen funny and gradually, and you never really know exactly when they're there. They start to split or get bad spots before they ripen very far, so I pick them when they are just in a heavy blush and finish them in the window. And sometimes the bottom half will get ripe before the top half even loses green. And if you set them out in the sun to ripen, they turn into a water balloon. Yeah, I haven't had a lot of luck with the purple Russians. So here's another one. My red cherry tomatoes. You can't tell now, but they're still packed full, and we have eaten. Bubba has eaten probably a couple of gallon of red cherry tomatoes. We'll always grow that because, man, they're just a treat. These are yellow pear, and you can't tell either, but they have been packed full. They haven't grown as many as the red cherry, but they are delicious and wonderful. They get bright yellow, and they're almost more than a mouthful, and they've been my favorite. These are Dad's Sunset, and they are my favorite tomato this year. They're simply awesome. You don't see much ripe because I just picked, but they have put on the biggest, most perfectly shaped, not damaged or contorted or spoiled, or they've just put on these are little compared to a lot of the tomatoes that I've taken in. It's an orange tomato, so it's a low acid. It is something that I chose to grow and ordered. Look at this. There are 3 of them together here that are starting to get ripe. You can see how big they are. There's 3 of them in that cluster. I have picked lots of these, and there are lots left to go. So, yeah, absolute. See, this one's just starting to turn, and they're big, they're beautiful, they're perfect. They aren't splitting, they aren't damaged, they're low acid. They're just a win, baby. Dad's Sunset, big in my book. I'll probably plant the majority of those next year. These are Bonnie Best, and they're not a bad tomato, but they were real slow in blooming and putting on. They're still blooming, you can see. See if we can get those to pollinate. Anyway, a lot of them have ripened small. You know, that's like halfway between a cherry and a regular tomato. There are a few bigger ones on the vine that haven't started to turn yet. Where's my hand? There we are. There are some that'll be bigger. You know, they haven't put on great bunches, but not bad. So I'm on the fence about the Bonnie Best. Yeah, they're still pretty good looking tomatoes. They're coming in later than everything else, I guess, so I'll reserve judgment until they're all ripe. Those look nice. Okay. Bonnie Best. Not bad. Not bad. Not perfect. These are the beefsteak, and I have over pruned them, as you can see. Primarily because their leaves were turning brown. They were getting bad, you know, like this. And so I trimmed most of that off. I would say nearly half of them have been at least as contorted and misshapen as this one. Some of them a lot worse. And they seem to ripen on one side but not the other side out here. So I have to take them in, put them in the window, because the ripe side will start to get ick before the other side even starts to ripen. These are the best looking of the beefsteak that I've had, but still they're not, you know, I'm just not a big fan, I guess. A lot of them have ripened small, and a lot of them have, oh, see, that's a nice big one, but it's got this big brown spot in it. And that one, I don't know, morphed. A lot of them have morphed, especially if there were multiple blooms that stuck together and I didn't pull them apart. There's a nice big one coming. Let's hope it ripens well. Anyhow, and there are extra tomatoes over here of every kind that I've told you about. These are my birdhouse gourds. Yeah, baby. We are going to make a purple martin house. And I don't know if you can see it, but my little bees are still at work looking for the birdhouse gourd blooms. They are busy, 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 busy. We love them. We're so happy they're here. All right, birdhouse gourds. We are going to make ourselves a big one. Big purple martin house. I have noticed that a lot of them, if they're coming off the same vine, you know, it'll feed one and not the others, and that's okay. You know, this one's got a cool shape, and I think when it dries, all these white spots, if you can see them, are going to be really pretty. I mean, you pick them. I was educated by Sarah at Living Traditions Homestead. And she's a mentor to me, whether she knows it or not. You pick them when the vine, the stem that attaches them to the vine goes brown and they're no longer receiving anything from the plant. That's when you pick them, and you allow them to dry for, you know, up to, you know, at least all winter and maybe even longer. And let's get a bigger one. And then you clean all the dry, crusty, nasty skin that's left on the outside. Isn't that awesome? See how big that is. You clean all that off the outside, and ooh, that's a cool one too. The one that's laying up there, it's getting bigger and bigger. Clean them off, and you drill a hole in them for the bird. Clean them out a little bit. If you want them to last a long time, to where you can take them down and clean them out and, you know, set them up for the following year, then these are just some other tomatoes that they're slow ripening because they're so shaded by the gourds. Then you put holes in both sides. Anyway, and you can stain them, paint them, put a coat of shellac on them, or just leave them all natural. Alrighty. Stay up here so you don't see all my bad weeds that I haven't been taking care of. I found that my loofah gourds accidentally had a birdhouse gourd plant. Get in the middle of them. And the birdhouse gourds come out evidently a lot earlier than the loofah gourds. I thought maybe, and I still don't know for sure, I thought maybe my loofah gourds were dead and done. Because I haven't seen any gourds. I've seen flowers. They still have beautiful flowers. There are 2 yellow loofah blooms right there. Because the birdhouse blooms are white and the loofah blooms are yellow. And they're beautiful. But then again, I watched another Sarah Living Traditions homestead video. And she thought her loofah was lost. And then it was almost fall. It was the end of the garden season. And all of a sudden, her loofah plants were full of gourds. So I will keep watering them and praying that they put out food. The roots still, I know I showed you once, but look at this crazy thing. None of the plants in the last 2 years, but this one, have done this. Look at these roots. They've gone out through the net cup and formed this great big mass of roots. Just craziness. Just crazy. I mean, the whole thing is full of roots coming out from both sides. Just amazes me. I didn't know anything would do that. Yeah, just amazing. Didn't come out that side though. That was kind of odd. All right, what's left when it comes to garden and food? Apple tree. This branch is so loaded with apples that it has fallen down right in front of I mean, it's almost down to my belly button now. And I used to be able to mow under it. So, I don't know how much riper the apples will get. I haven't been courageous enough to taste one yet. But the tree is certainly heavy with them. This branch is hanging a little bit just from a couple. But yeah, we have lots of apples, and hopefully, you know, we'll at least get a pie out of it this year. Let's see if my 2 pair, I don't know how quickly they ripen. I know there were 2, but I only see one when I look. The other one was close, but I don't know where it is. Anyhow, that's all right. Tree is, there it is, it's on the same branch. Just down a little ways. I don't know how soon they'll be ready, but I'm not going to pick them now because I know from experience that biting into an unripe pear is worse than biting into an unripe apple. It will suck the juice from your face and turn you out the other side. This apple tree, praise the Lord, has grown this year more than any year prior, even after we pruned it up really good. Wow, it has grown. I do see holes in the leaves, but I did put out my Japanese beetle traps, and they've been doing a good job. You know, they're not perfect, but they've been doing an excellent job at keeping the beetles away. The walnut tree that we got as a volunteer from Dad's yard is doing awesome. Someday I'll be sad about that when I have to clean up underneath it. The blooming cherry, you know, I pruned the wallop out of it so that I could mow under it, and now I got volunteers coming again, and it's growing beautifully too. Our spruce trees are doing great, of course. Our red oak is a slow grower, but it's doing well. What else? The spruce is kind of a late bloomer, but I gave it some good old rabbit leftovers, and it's doing better. Our Kentucky coffee tree is as big as it's ever been, which is pretty awesome. And, you know, Polly's still there. She is still there. Oh, you probably can't see it. You'll see it here, but we've moved the spot. We have marks in our yard. I have to call one call because we have decided here's where we're actually going to take it. Down to the end. This spot right here next to the Kentucky coffee tree is the lowest spot on our property. And every time we have too much rain, water gathers here. We had a catastrophic flood in 2016. And we've had other smaller, where the yard just gets enveloped since then. And so a friend of ours, Moyer Mowing, he also does tree service and landscaping, and I'll try to remember to put a link to his Facebook page in the description. He also has a backhoe and can provide a lot of different services. He is going to, lower it so that from here the water will flow out to this point. And then we are going to bury a barrel and put a sump pump in it. There's a storm drain down in the corner. And we're going to bury a line that will take the water from our yard down to the storm drain. That's what we're going to do there. Okay, boy, it does look like I need more out here, doesn't it? Chicky says, Mom, I'm hot and I'm tired. Grab your buckets. Let's get our watering done so we can go back in the house. All right, everybody. I thank you again for joining me here at Wendy's Way. I pray that the good Lord, who blesses me each and every day of my life, will bless you as well, today and always.